Okie dokie. We're here with the Ohio Ram Show once again. I don't even know what number it is. We've had so many shows here, but we're up in the lower 300s somewhere here. And we have very special guests with us this evening. We have Anthony Gordon on from VRAAM. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can put a comment in here. It'll show up. And we'll be glad to hear your comments and questions as we get into VRAAM. Anthony Gordon, welcome to the Ohio Ram Show.
Hey, thank you, Lee. Thank you for having us. And we're live from Sydney, Australia.
Well, I don't have your sound.
You don't have sound?
Yeah, that's
there we go. Is that good?
Rupert there in the background. We had him on the show earlier, and we're going to be talking to him a little later. And I want to introduce Jim Lawyer here, who also he's doing the 60. He's just lives a few miles from me, and he has been instrumental in getting the 3 staff time stations going here in Ohio. They are staffed around the clock during the race across America, all with good people who lose a lot of sleep. And Jim helped start all 3 of them, and he's now captaining our station there in Chillicothe. Hi, Jim. How are you this evening?
Very good. How about yourself?
Hey, whatever you did for your microphone really improved things.
Yeah, I got an over-the-air one now, so we're good.
Okay, it's great. It's great. And yeah, we want to welcome people in here. I see some people popping in here. And before we get started, I want to introduce Anthony Gordon. Anthony, just what is your relationship with VRAAM?
Yeah, well, basically, I came up with the idea about 2.5 months ago when the COVID pandemic hit and RAM was cancelled. Spoke with Rick and all of Roop's team and thought let's try and see if we can do this virtually. So not only Rupert but all the riders around the world, their training would still be put in good use, and they could still ride whilst everything was in lockdown.
Okay, and is this a product of Full Gas? Is that correct? Is that how that works?
No, actually, we came up with the concept and worked out how to put it together. And we shopped around to a number of platforms, including Zwift and a few others. And Full Gas were the guys that could actually develop a course that would not only be interesting enough over the period of time, but their servers and the delivery could actually cater for the number of riders that we have.
Okay, so you guys did a lot of work, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the team was about 12 people, and it took us, we were working around the clock. So to get this happening within 6 weeks, we were working at least 16, 17-hour days, 7 days a week, which COVID allowed us to do. Everyone's work dried up, and we were also sort of stuck at home. It was a really nice positive thing to actually throw out to the world. So yeah, it took us 6 weeks, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours to get to the position. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it's the best we could do in that time.
Okay, well, Jim here is IT manager for a company here in Ohio, a large company, and I think he knows something about what might have gone into it. What's your assessment of the job they did in 8 weeks' time, Jim?
Very good. I mean, I don't know of anybody else that could do something like this that quick. I've ridden all the 12 days so far, up to we're on the 10th day now, I think, or the 9th day, and haven't had a lick of problem. Very enjoyable. It's just an amazing job that they did.
Okay. And I see a couple of people coming in here. Jill Marks, Tom Florian. Hi, Tom. Ross Duncan, Simon Hughes. I'm sure they've got comments and questions for you. I think I have noticed that people seem to appreciate it. I can say, as a fan, we always see little glitches here and there, but you gave us something to do these 2 weeks rather than sit here and twiddle our thumbs and wish there was something going on. I guess that's the best thing I could say about it. I think the same thing's true for the riders. Poor Jim there, he doesn't have a time station to run, so he has to do this 60. How you doing, Jim?
We're doing pretty good. April's kicking my butt like normal. But I'm doing at least an hour a day, if not the whole course. I've stopped a little bit early on a couple of them just because I was dead tired. Because there's a lot of climbs on these, and I'm not used to a lot of climb. But it's been very enjoyable, and it's been great to do the dot watching and see where other people are at.
Yeah, and I see Georgie's in here, but I'll bet Georgie's got a comment or a question. He always does. And that is my dog chiming in there.
That sounds a lot like Rupert, actually. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well,
Rupert tends to make those sounds quite a lot. Normally about sort of 4:30 in the morning.
Okay. Well, it's what, 8:30 Saturday, Friday morning there, isn't it?
Yeah. 8:30. Just past 8:30 Friday morning. It's a lovely crisp morning here in Sydney, and Rupert's pretty much on track for a good finish. We rested him well last night. He's eating well. Everything's going well. All his vitals are going well. So and he's still smiling, happy, chirpy. It's like he just started. I think when you get to this level of athleticism, he sort of, it's like being the third week of a Grand Tour. He kicks in and he's pretty strong. But I've been speaking to a lot of the riders. I had a lovely conversation with Hiro Suzuki yesterday, and he's tiring because he went out pretty hard. But I think overall we've had quite an overwhelming response to what we're trying to do. We've had a few little niggles, but again, it wasn't meant to be perfect. It was just meant to be something, and that's all you can really hope for, I guess. Yeah.
Well, definitely, and you guys have done a great job. Like I said, it's been very enjoyable for us, and no or very small glitches here or there, but everything's been great.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing, just not knowing any more about it, that your server probably got overloaded a couple of times because we had a little trouble downloading the leaderboard. But other than that, we haven't had any problems here. We have heard some people that have, but on the internet, Jim, as you well know, you never know where a problem might be. There's a lot of hitches between Australia and the rest of the world.
That's correct.
So are you a cyclist yourself, Anthony? How did you get hooked into this thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I said from the get-go, I'm not really an events guy at all. I've said to Rick Botham quite a few times that, if it's, I've filmed VRAAM 3 times, and I was a cyclist my whole life, and I stopped cycling a few years back now because I was traveling so much with my film work that I couldn't carry bikes and cameras. So I went into more of the more adventurous sports rather than just cycling. But I've filmed a lot of the professional tours and cyclists over the last 20 years of my career. I've sort of made a living out of filming adventure, ultras, expeditions, and in the last few years in particular, a lot of ultra cycling. So when it came down to doing this, I applied a lot of the knowledge of what I'd seen behind the scenes. I'd probably seen more behind the scenes and more athletes than most race directors have in the world. So it made it a little bit easier to apply some knowledge to it. And then I brought in, some experts in the field, not just Rick, but Dave Fell from Revolve 24, who runs the only Australian VRAAM qualifier. So I brought in the expertise that filled the gaps of my knowledge. And then, from the service perspective, the guys at Full Gas, where the rest of the world is kind of going to a flat spot, the virtual world was going into its biggest boom ever. So the server issues was about scalability and staffing. And I think what the Full Gas guys pulled off on a giant leap of faith in within 6 or 7 weeks is remarkable. And anyone that wants to have a crack at it, it's not easy. And what they've done, considering as well in this virtual world and the COVID world, we've never even met the gentlemen that run the company. It's all been done through Zoom chat. So it's a very interesting business case to be held as well. And I can't speak highly enough of the whole team that put it together, that we're all working for free and donating their time. It's quite a humbling experience. So my background wasn't cycling, behind the camera, and I used to race when I was a lot younger and fitter. I've got a lot of background in cycling. And this really isn't a cycling event. This is an event to give people, a bit of positivity and hope in in a quite a chaotic world. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, Gebby says, great work, guys. Awesome effort, Rupert and Anthony. I've enjoyed doing the 60. And we will have Rupert, I promise, tomorrow, maybe about this time, if this works out. We'll try to get Rupert on here for a few minutes to see how he's doing. So, as I understand it, at the end of 12 days, which for us, Jim, I would believe would be 9 o'clock Sunday morning.
I believe so, yes.
You're going to, at that point, draw a line and declare the winners. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So the 12 days will be drawn, and so this is whoever's effectively gone the furthest will be the winner of the categories, except for the for VRAAM, because that was obviously a distance-based event, and Rick's going to be dealing with some things on that. Yeah, but the course is going to stay open. As with RAAM, if you miss some cutoffs, you're still entitled to ride to Annapolis. So Full Gas are keeping the course open so people can ride, and enjoy it and experience the full distance if they choose to, and that's really important.
Well, I know some people are planning on riding the full distance, and Jim and I will be following at least one of them, and you'll be hearing that whole process. My experience on a trainer is so limited, I can't even imagine the kind of time you guys are putting in. Jim has had a lot more experience with that than I have, but that was before the days, Anthony, of computers and graphics and all that kind of stuff. I did finally put a TV set in front, and I found that you couldn't watch TV. I was riding rollers. You had to pay attention when you're on rollers. And so yeah, about an hour, Jim, was about enough for me.
There you go.
Okay. So what's the future of virtual racing? What do you think, Anthony? Do you see this going on, doing something like it? I've heard some people say it ought to be done the same time as RAAM. I've heard some people say it could be done in the wintertime. Well, that's our winter time.
Yeah, look, it's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think what we've been terming is the fog of war. We're going to let that settle a bit to see what happens with it. I think the Full Gas guys and Rick from RAAM are very interested in building more RAAM segments into it. I think from my perspective, I'm not sure where it will go. We had a lovely young chap, 17-year-old Ben Said, who's a blind Paralympian Australian champion that's going to Tokyo 2021, joined us last night. And as a young fella, I think they hold the key far more than myself. And he was thrilled to use this as a training tool and to get the miles as I think the virtual side of it will just complement. It's the same as when trainers first came out, when new bike computers came out, when when Strava started and all the data that's available. I think it's just another tool in people's repertoire. But in terms of where VRAAM itself goes, look, it was extremely successful for us given the time that we had to put it together. But I think moving forward, it'll be a product of what RAAM themselves feel they would like to do, because I developed it for the ultra community. And so I think it's a discussion that we'll have with Rick and Dave and the team when we're said and done. But I think from the perspective of myself and Rupert, I think we're done with actually racing VRAAM in the future. But never say never. We'll be chatting with Marco Balla after this, who's been Rupert's coach, to see how it fit in and how it worked. And again, it might be an integral part of people's training for RAAM. As you know, if you're training for a marathon, you never really do a full marathon distance. So if you're training for RAAM, you actually get to experience some of the duress and sleep patterns and strategy that you would have from the real race. So I think it's too early to know what will happen. But if it's there as an option for people to potentially ride whenever they want throughout the year, because the platform is there, I think it can only be a positive thing.
Okay, very good. And I can't see everybody that might be out there. I can see some of you, but please check in. Let us know you're here. Just say hi or something like that. We'd be glad to have you check in. You got any questions, Jim?
Not really. You kind of asked the question I was going to ask about if it was going to be continued on in the future or not. I guess the base question, if it does, I hope they film some of the actual segments of the of the course itself to make it more realistic, etc. We're going a distance, but not the real course.
Yeah, well, you pulled the segments you had out of some data, did you not? You already had. Is that correct, Anthony?
Yeah. So Full Gas. Look, this all started with Zwift, and the idea was to create a virtual world that would be interesting enough for a rider to ride a pseudo RAAM distance. And unfortunately, with Zwift, their servers couldn't sustain the variety we needed, and riding an animated world over multiple repeats wasn't going to be satisfactory. So when the Full Gas guys put their hands up, we had a look at, they had a giant database of real vision. We wanted to keep it in North America, but as a result of that, that's what gave us the limitation. We had a few segments filmed and delivered to us from the US, but in the time frame we had, given that the lockdown was in place, we couldn't get a lot of segments filmed and sent to us. So we were predominantly limited to what Full Gas had in their library. Now, in a virtual world, people don't like to just ride through Kansas. They like challenging climbs and short distances. And when you put them all together, it created a monstrous challenge because there wasn't a lot of flat. Yeah, we didn't want to do so many looped stages that it would drive people crazy. So it was either find a similar balance or not do it at all. And what we did is we spent a tremendous amount of time trying to make all this work, and then linking all of those into a dot watching facility and making it functional has never been done on a virtual platform like that. So we were limited to what we had to work with, and there has been a lot of criticisms leveled at the course. But given what we had to work with in that time frame, it was the absolute best we could possibly do.
Well, a lot of us had loops thrown at us. I'm sure Jim did in his work because I do this little show, a little online thing. Everybody here in the city of Dayton was in touch with me. Can you help us go online? Can you help us go online? And they didn't have a clue. They didn't have equipment. And some people had to be drawn into it. So we kind of got thrown into that kind of arena ourselves here in a little bit, and kind of understand that. And Georgie there, he says, be nice to record the actual route. We've been talking about that, the next RAAM, then replicate it virtually. Been loving your interviews, Anthony, super entertaining. So, well, we're glad somebody's entertained here. And Simon Hughes is checking in, just saying hi. Hi, Simon. How are you doing? Glad to see you here again. You're a regular, and we're happy to have you here as well.
Yeah, look, well, I mean, the challenge for us putting the actual RAAM course together as well is the data that's required in order to make that happen. Now, in order to do this, you need to be able to record at the highest resolution and upload the content, which again creates major data issues with an online environment. So the easiest way to ship memory cards around the world to get it to Full Gas, and it is quite a difficult thing to do from a technology standpoint. So I think realistically there are, and Rick has a lot of ideas as well from a RAAM perspective. So it will become a very interesting space. Whether we're involved at this level again, that remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what resolution did you submit that? You know?
So all the resolution gets sent to Full Gas in 4K. So it's full-time HD resolution, but with a course this long, and to allow people to download effectively, the 720 resolution was the most feasible, because again, bandwidth around the world doesn't allow to have 4K content, and we're not even filming in 4K. So it creates some data issues, and
So
realistically,
you're shipping it out in 720.
Yeah. So people can download in 4K if they want to, but we're recommending 720 for the duration and also for the for the internet.
Yeah.
There's a significant challenge in that. I mean, the difference between the platforms is most of the other virtual cycling platforms are gaming platforms. This is almost like a broadcast platform because they're streaming out real footage.
Okay. And Simon says he's enjoyed watching VRAAM, and my buddies Anita Wolf Herbal and Simon Potter. They had Simon Potter on the show right after he finished. That was before I got the idea, Jim, of going live and riding in with these people as they finished, I should say. And I think we're going to be doing more of that at Annapolis, virtual Annapolis. Even though the cutoff will have passed, we're going to try to ride in with a couple people and enjoy them that way.
Yeah, so, we're having. Wagner Roofing, who is our major sponsor from the US, they're based just outside of Annapolis, and we've got a big screen just outside here. We're going to do a stream for all their employees to be down at the pier. They'll be actually cheering from the actual finish line while Rupert crosses the virtual line here in Sydney. So we are sort of bringing the world together to make that happen a little bit, especially down here.
Well, we're going to have to do something about being able to get around the world. It looks like right now it's hard for anybody to come to the United States, and it would appear that the shoe's on the other foot now. We can't go anyplace either. So
the world's become a large place again, not a small place.
Yeah, lost Jim there. But okay, so thank you, everyone, for coming in here. Thank you, Anthony, for giving you some time. Hey, ask Rupert if about this time, which is 8:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning would work for him.
Hey, Rupert, Lee wants to know whether 8:30 tomorrow morning would work for you for a little chat with the Ohio Ram show.
Sure, yeah, he'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, he said anytime he gets to be with such a handsome gentleman, he'd love to do that.
Is his nose growing longer?
Don't shoot the messenger, brother.
Okay. Thanks so much, Anthony. Thanks for taking time to be with us. We appreciate that. Thanks for what you've done. As I said, you've given us something to do, and like something's going on rather than nothing.
Yeah.
So
that's it. And that's it. And that's it. It's better than doing nothing. Sometimes
I can tell you, much as we appreciate what you've done, I want to be out there at the time stations next year, seeing real people riding real bikes on real roads. And I know you do too. But you've done a wonderful job. Thank you so much. And
thank you, guys. See you later.
Thank all of you for watching. This is the Ohio Ram Show, where we try to put the ultra and ultra cycling. And if you're watching on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you'd hit that little subscribe button there. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can hit a like and you'll get notifications either way. Jerry Phelps, I see you popped in here after everybody's left. Just a little bit short on the trigger. We're glad to have you just the same. And for that, goodbye. The next show we have scheduled is Hoppo is going to be back for another episode as he gets closer to his goals. It'll be tomorrow evening, Friday evening here in the United States, I think around 10. Hey, watch the notices. They'll be on the Facebook page, the Ohio Ram Show page, and elsewhere. And we'll keep in touch with you. Thanks, everybody. And have a good time. Good luck. Stay safe. And wash your hands. Wear those masks. Bye-bye.